Hey guys, well I am excited today. Today's gonna be a fun little, actually multiple experiments, where the first experiment is gonna be with regard to this frozen ribeye that I have. Now there's a whole group out on the internet that claims 137 is the way to go when it comes to ribeyes. I myself am a bit of a skeptic. I am a medium rare guy, true to it, and it's hard for me to stray from that. But the 137 gang, as they're called online, really believes 137 is the way for ribeyes. And the principle actually makes a lot of sense, because it's essentially that a ribeye is a pretty fatty cut of meat. That's what makes it so delicious. So when you think about fat rendering and you want it to render down as you cook the meat, the higher the temperature you go, the more the fat will render. So that's the thought with the 137 ribeye. We're gonna try it today. I've got, like I said, a frozen ribeye here. I'm gonna drop it into my preheated water. I'm using the Joule Turbo here. That too is new to me, so it's a little bit of an experiment there. I gotta tell you, it heated up the water super quick. I just ran my faucet to hot water, stuck this in, put it in 137 real quickly on the app, and within minutes it was at 137, so far so good. So I'm gonna drop this ribeye in. At the end, I'm gonna run another experiment, kind of pitting two popular sous vide techniques against each other, or tools against each other. So stay tuned for that. But with that, I'm gonna drop the steak in. We're gonna finish it. I'm gonna show you the results. I'm gonna taste it and let you know what I think about it. So here we go with the 137 sous vide ribeye experiment. So I'm using my core magnets here. I really like these. And importantly, I'm cooking it from a time perspective, which is an important piece of information here. I'm trying 3.5 hours. 2.5 hours is what I normally like my ribeyes at. We'll go to 3.5 given it's frozen. And if you're curious, since I mentioned I'm using the Joule Turbo, Turbo mode doesn't apply to frozen meats or proteins or what have you. So please know, Turbo is limited to, the Turbo option I should say, is limited to a handful of different proteins at this point. That catalog is expanding. Frozen foods do not apply to Turbo mode at this point. Let's see what happens. All right, so our sous vide cook is done. It's been in there for 3.5 hours at that 137. Let's see how magical 137 is. So I'm gonna take the bag out. And the first thing we're gonna do is cut it out of the bag, obviously. I'm using my chicken shear. My kitchen shears here. Just open that up. I'm not gonna save the purge, if you will, for any pan juices today. I think I'm just gonna do a straight up sort of steak meal. So we will forego saving the purge, so you can make a fantastic sauce out of it. Thing we want to make sure we do before we go to the searing stage, I gotta put my time on there, before we go to the searing stage, is to pat it dry, because if you don't pat it dry, that's sort of the enemy of a good sear. And I can't tell you for how many years I had a lot of trouble remembering to do that, but the quality of the sear really does suffer if you don't pat it dry. Just that moisture, which sort of turns more to steam, not that crisp sear that you want. So, always dry before searing. Which brings me to the next experiment that we're doing today. Pit two sous vide torches against each other. So my thought was to take the new su-vgun, as you can see here, and pit it against the Searsol on the Bernzomatic TS8000. My thought was just to do each side, like one side with the su-vgun, one side with the Searsol, and just see how easy it is to do, how long it takes, just see what kind of char we get, and then cut through it to see which leaves less gray when we've got the desired char that we want. So that's my next experiment in the video of experiments. First was 137. We'll see how that goes. And then on top of it, we're gonna do this bit of battle of the torches when it comes to sous vide. So with that, let's get searing. So we're gonna sear with the Searzall here. So just to turn that on, you gotta make sure it's in the unlocked position here. There's a toggle there. Push that down, and then you can adjust the flame with the knob. You wanna let it run for a little bit just so it heats up before you get going. You can also lock what happens there so you don't have to touch the button anymore. I'm gonna start searing. So you want to be fairly close to the beat here. You want to work your way around. You can see it's starting to brown there. I did lightly brush this with a little bit of avocado oil just to get it going. So there's some real browning going on. You can see the flame is dispersed. Now the Searzall's on the TS8000 by Brenzomatic. We're using propane gas. Work it over nice and smoothly. Get some nice brown. So we're just about done here. Don't want to risk overcooking the inside. So I'm going to flip it over. We're going to actually try the su-vgun on the other side just for comparison. You want to see that? See that? Stay tuned. So I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to show you guys how the su-vgun works. So we got our propane tank in. You don't want to tighten it too much, so you want to make sure it's just on there. You want to use there's a safety of sorts. You want to make sure that knob is on. You can hear it going, and then you hit the trigger. So you can see a pretty powerful flame. You can adjust it. Crazy. Then you can let go of the trigger and you've got pure blue hot flame. This is multiple more BTUs, many multiples of BTUs versus the Searzall. And we're going to sear this now. So you want to be fairly smooth with it. You don't want to jostle it or else the safety will take on. So here you can see the sous vide gun versus the Searzall. So we got a pretty good char both ways. Compare them there. Now we'll cut into it to see which one did a better job of preserving the doneness in the meat and didn't overcook it with the sear. Stay tuned for that. So we had a couple experiments going on. We had one, which was to try a ribeye at 137. This is the first time I've done that. 137 gang, this one's for you. And the other was to sear it two different ways. One was to do it with the su-vgun, which is this side, and then on the opposite side, we use the Searzall. So let's cut into it and see. First thing I want to look for is just if one sort of left the meat cooked better so than the other. And so you can see here's the 137 cut. And it looks like they both did a pretty good job. I mean, at the end of the day, if I had to give one a winner, I would probably say the su-vgun. There does look like there's just a little less grain here relative to the other one, but both of them were fantastic in this regard. Very little graying outside. They heated it up and charred it really nicely. If I look at the char on both sides, I mean, they're really similar. I mean, maybe you give a little bit of an edge to the su-vgun here too. But next, I want to just give this a bite and just see how 137 came out. And the principle here, or the idea here, is that it just renders the fat better. So I'm going to give that a bite. It's good. I want to try a portion with a little fat on it, because ultimately if it's about rendering the fat, I want to kind of make sure I get a piece that's got a nice bit of fattiness to it. And I think the ribeye cap is a good place to go with that. So the big difference at 137 is that fat does really render more nicely. I think when I'm having a pure piece of meat that certainly has a intramuscular fat in the sort of small weight, the striations, the small striations versus the big fat sort of glob of fat within it, I still would prefer to have medium or a true medium rare, but the fat certainly does taste better at the 137 level. So you might have convinced me to move up in temperature to help that fat render a little bit. I think I'm gonna stick to medium rare though, but you're onto something, 137 Club. 137 gang, I think is what you call yourselves. Cheers to that. Okay, so we had a two-headed experiment here. The first one being trying to cook the ribeye at 137. My take on that is certainly the fattier pieces really do render the fat. Well, the fat is rendered better. So those fattier pieces do taste tastier, if you will. For me, I think I am still more of a, 131-ish type guy for ribeye. Maybe I'll bump that up to like a 135 and try that, because I do like the meat to remain a little more tender. And then the other thing we tried was searing with the su-vgun versus the Searzall. Now the Searzall browned really well, so did the su-vgun, but I think when you're talking about one versus the other, I would prefer the su-vgun. The drawback of the su-vgun is it is really intense flame, so you probably want to use that outside as opposed to inside, but you can use it inside. I just didn't want to file an insurance claim or feel the need to. So I hope you enjoyed that bit of an experiment or experimentation today, given the two different experiments we did. I thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, subscribe to our channel. We'd appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up. Thanks.